Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I was 16 the first time I stayed home alone for an entire weekend. My parents had a wedding out of town, some distant cousin I barely remembered, and they left me in charge of the house. It was a big deal for me. 2 days of total freedom. No curfews, no nagging, just me, the couch, and a stack of horror movies I wasn't supposed to watch. That first night, everything felt fine. I ordered a pizza, stayed up late watching some old slasher flick, and let the glow of the TV keep me company. But as the clock crept toward 11, I started getting that feeling. You know the one. Like the air had gotten heavier. Like something had shifted in the silence around me. At first, I ignored it. Just my imagination, I told myself. I was watching scary movies alone. Of course I was going to freak myself out. But then I saw it. A flicker of movement. Just past the TV, in the hallway leading to the bedrooms. A shadow. Shifting in the darkness. My breath caught in my throat. I turned my head sharply, nothing. Probably a trick of the light. Maybe a car passing by outside. I forced a laugh, shook my head, and went back to my movie. And then I heard it. A soft creak. A single footstep. It came from the hallway. I muted the TV, heart hammering. The house settled around me, still and silent, but I could feel something watching. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stood up slowly. Hello? My voice barely made a sound. Nothing. I swallowed hard and stepped toward the hallway. The floor felt cold beneath my bare feet. My bedroom door was open, just as I had left it. But something wasn't right. Then I saw it. My closet door. It was open. Not wide, just a crack. Just enough for something, to peek through. I stopped breathing. I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had closed that door earlier. I always closed it. My fingers trembled as I reached out and yanked it open. Darkness, just my clothes, swaying ever so slightly, as if disturbed. A rush of cold air hit me, but the air conditioning wasn't even on. I wanted to believe it was my imagination, that maybe I had left the door open without realizing it. But deep down, I knew better. I exhaled, trying to shake the unease from my body. "You're being stupid," I whispered to myself. "Go back to your movie." I turned back toward the living room, lifting my phone's flashlight, and that's when I saw them. Wet footprints. Bare. Human. They led from the closet to the living room, to the very spot where I had been sitting. I couldn't breathe. My body locked up, frozen in place, every nerve screaming at me to run. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. The prints were fresh, glistening in the dim light. Someone had been standing there, watching me. A floorboard creaked. Behind me, I spun so fast my vision blurred. Nothing. The closet stood open, dark and empty. My breath came in short, sharp gasps. The house was silent again, but now it was the kind of silence that felt wrong. I ran. I grabbed my keys off the counter, bolted out the front door, and locked myself in my car. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely grip the steering wheel. I sat there for hours, staring at the house, waiting for someone to step into view. Nothing did. When the sun finally started to rise, I forced myself to go back inside. The footprints were gone. The floor was dry. But the closet door, it was wide open. Story 2. I was house sitting for my uncle while he was on a business trip. He lived in one of those quiet suburban neighborhoods where the streets are lined with neat little houses, each with its own manicured lawn and white picket fence. The kind of place where people wave at each other from their driveways and borrow sugar from their neighbors. Peaceful, safe. At least that's what I thought. The first 2 nights were uneventful. I fed the cat, watched TV, and double-checked the locks before bed. My uncle had one of those old houses where every floorboard creaks and the pipes groan when the wind changes. But I didn't mind. The place had character. Then came the 3rd night. It was around 2 a.m. when I woke up, my throat dry. I lay there for a second listening. The house was silent. Even the cat, usually a midnight prowler, was curled up at the foot of the bed, breathing softly. I swung my legs over the side of the bed and made my way to the kitchen. The floor was cold under my bare feet as I filled a glass with water from the tap. As I drank, I happened to glance toward the front window, and that's when I saw him. A man, standing in the driveway. He wasn't moving. He wasn't facing the house. He was just standing there. Something about the way he stood sent a shiver down my spine. His posture was too stiff, his head tilted at a slight, unnatural angle, as if he was listening for something. His arms hung limply at his sides. He wore a dark hoodie, the hood pulled up, obscuring most of his face. But I could tell he wasn't looking at the house. At least I thought he wasn't. I stared at him for a long moment, waiting for him to move. Maybe he was a drunk neighbor, maybe someone waiting for an Uber, maybe just a guy who had wandered into the wrong driveway. But he never moved. I slowly set the glass down on the counter. My heart was beating a little too fast now. Something wasn't right. I reached for my phone, my fingers shaking slightly. I was about to call the police when a strange thought hit me. I should check again. I didn't want to, but I did. I lifted my eyes back to the window, and he was closer. My breath hitched in my throat. He was no longer in the middle of the driveway. Now, he was at the very edge of it, just a few feet from the house. I hadn't seen him move. My stomach dropped. I took a shaky step backward, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. I wanted to believe it was my imagination, that my sleepy brain was playing tricks on me. But deep down, I knew better. I stumbled into the living room, locked the front door, then the back. I checked the windows, the basement door, even the garage. Every lock, double-checked, triple-checked. My fingers trembled as I turned off the lights, plunging the house into darkness. I crouched in the hallway, pressing my back against the wall. The only sound was my own breathing, sharp and uneven. I waited. Minutes passed, maybe an hour. I lost track of time. Finally, I worked up the courage to peek through the blinds. He was gone. I exhaled, my whole body sagging with relief. Maybe he had just been some weirdo messing around. Maybe he got bored and left. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. In the morning, I checked the security camera footage. My hands trembled as I pulled up the video, and then my stomach turned to ice. He had been standing there for hours, just standing, not moving, not shifting, not swaying like a normal person would, completely still like a statue. And then, at exactly 3:14 a.m., he disappeared. Not walked away, not turned around. One frame he was there, the next he was gone, like he had never been there at all. Story 3. I never believed in ghosts, or demons, or things that go bump in the night. I always thought horror movies were just stories, scary bedtime tales for grown-ups. But that was before the night I heard the whispering outside my window, before I saw the face. It started like any other night. I was up late, working on my laptop. My tiny apartment was quiet except for the occasional hum of passing cars outside. It was just me, the glow of my screen, and the steady clicking of my keyboard. The world outside felt distant, unimportant. Then I heard it. At first, I thought it was the wind, just a faint rustling, barely noticeable. But then it came again, clearer this time. A whisper, a slow, deliberate murmur, too soft to make out the words, but not soft enough to ignore. I froze. It sounded close, too close. I took off my headphones and listened. My heart thumped against my ribs. The sound wasn't coming from the hallway or the living room. It was coming from outside. I live on the second floor. There's a tree outside my window, sure, but it's not close enough for someone to climb. No fire escape, no balcony. No way anyone could be up there, right? I turned off my desk lamp, plunging the room into darkness. My laptop screen cast a pale glow over my hands as I slowly stood up. The whispering had stopped. I took a deep breath and crept toward the window, every step careful, deliberate. I felt stupid. It was probably just my mind playing tricks on me. Maybe a neighbor's TV, a distant conversation drifting up from the street. I reached the window and hesitated. My fingers trembled as I lifted the blinds just a sliver, just enough to peek through. Nothing. The street below was empty. The tree outside barely moved in the still night air. The sky was heavy with clouds, swallowing the moon. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. Just my imagination. I shook my head, laughing nervously at myself, and let the blinds fall back into place. Then I heard it again. I see you. The voice was right outside the window. My stomach clenched. My skin prickled with cold sweat. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't the TV. Someone was there. I didn't want to look. I did not want to look, but I had to. With a trembling hand, I reached for the blinds. I didn't open them all the way, just enough to see, and that's when I saw the face, pressed against the glass, grinning. Its eyes were wide, too wide, almost bulging. The skin was pale, stretched tight over sharp cheekbones. The lips curled up in an unnatural smile, revealing yellowed teeth. The breath fogged against the glass in slow, steady puffs. It didn't move. It just stared. I screamed, stumbled backward, knocking over my chair. My heart was hammering so hard it hurt. I scrambled to my feet, my body on fire with panic. By the time I looked again, it was gone. I gasped for breath, my whole body trembling. I ran to the front door, making sure it was locked. I checked the bathroom, the closet, under the bed, anywhere someone could hide. No one was there. There was no way anyone could have been outside my window. No way. But when I checked the next morning, when the sun had risen and the world felt normal again, I saw it. A single handprint on the outside of the glass. Smudged, as if something or someone had pressed against it for a long, long time. I never slept with my blinds open again,